Good evening. This is a special meeting of the Guilderland Central School District Board of Education. Today is September 24th, 2024. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening's meeting is a special meeting to interview candidates for an open seat created by the resignation of Mrs. Judy Slack on September 11th, 2024. The board is using a process it has used in the past to fill a vacant seat. The board is interviewing individuals who have expressed an interest in serving a term that will begin on October 1st, 2024 and end on May 20th, 2025. This meeting is being televised, live streamed, and can be viewed on the GHS Media YouTube channel. Immediately following the interviews, the board will adjourn to executive session to discuss the candidates. The candidates will know the outcome of the interviews in the next day or two, and the board will appoint the successful candidate on October 1st, 2024. Okay. And now I would like to turn this over to Sophia Parker and Emily Nelligan.
Thank you, Mrs. Gonzalez-Parker. Tonight we have 4 candidates who have expressed an interest in being appointed to the open seat on the Board of Education. The candidates have been placed in alphabetical order by last name and will take turns being the first to answer each question. For example, Mrs. Briere will respond first to the first question, then Mr. Donegan will answer first on the second question, and so on. You will each have 3 minutes to answer the first question. Our timer will hold up the yellow card when you have 30 seconds left and the red card when you're out of time. Please be sure to wrap up your comments when your time is up. For question 1, we'll start with Ms. Briere. Please take a few moments to introduce yourself. As you tell us about yourself, be sure to share information about your background, including your qualifications for serving on the Guilderland Board of Education. Also, be sure to comment on any ways you participated in board-sponsored activities, such as community conversations, public meetings on topics such as budget, priority meetings, etc.
Thank you. My name's Meredith Briere, and I am a McCownville resident. I want to say thank you for having me here today, and I'm really excited to answer everyone's questions. I'm the parent of 2 young girls who will be attending Guilderland District schools. They'll be at Westmere Elementary School, the first starting next year. My husband and I moved to New York from Arizona, specifically for the quality of the public education system, and I have never looked back. I am seeking a position on the school board because I believe that every child deserves access to quality education, and I'm committed to contributing my skills and experience to support our schools in fostering academic success and community engagement. My professional background spans a diverse range of roles, all focused on service, leadership, and advocacy. From my current position as treasurer for the Joe Seaman for Assembly campaign to my previous roles in campaign management, nonprofit operations, and public service, I have developed a strong foundation in governance, financial oversight, and community outreach. As the advocacy coordinator for the returned Peace Corps volunteers of Northeast New York, I successfully advocated for national and local policy changes representing our organization in discussions with elected officials, both local and national. My ability to communicate effectively and build relationships is a skill that I bring to every leadership role. I understand the importance of collaboration, whether it's with fellow board members, educators, parents, or students. Additionally, my experience as the Director of Operations for Shalom Food Pantry and Bethlehem Chabad demonstrates my ability to manage complex projects, secure funding, and engage the community. My experience as a Peace Corps volunteer in China gave me a deep understanding of the importance of cultural exchange, diversity, and inclusion. I was placed at a politically charged site where I navigated complex cultural dynamics while fostering mutual respect and understanding. Through my work as a teacher there in China, I focused on critical thinking skills and cultural exchange with students. I am also deeply committed to civic engagement. serving as a committee member on the Guilderland and Albany Democratic Committees. I'm now the secretary for the Guilderland Democratic Committee, and as well as my role as treasurer for the Guilderland Fire District. That both of those roles have honed my understanding of local governance and the importance of fiscal responsibility. As a member of the school board, I will work to ensure that our schools are well-resourced, that we maintain transparent and responsible financial practices, and that we create an inclusive environment where every student has the opportunity to succeed. My experience in finance, policy advocacy, and community service uniquely positions me to contribute to the strategic decisions that will shape the future of our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And same question, Mr. Dunnigan.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. My name is Mateo Dunnigan. It's going to be 13 years that I have been in this district, since 2013 in November, and I really enjoy this district. It's why I keep coming back here. I just enjoy this community very much. I served in Hannaford. I worked at Hannaford for 3 years as a cashier and as a service clerk. During my duration time there, I also advocated on education policies along with running for school board once. And I'm hoping, the reason why I'm seeking this position again is because I really love serving others. And what better to serve our future leaders is our students. And I always say, what happens now in the classrooms and in our schools will address the state of our future. I often remind myself of that question asked in 1970s by an apartheid African minister. He asked, "Was there nothing worth fighting for?" I believe here and now is worth fighting for. Our future depends on it, and I believe we can own it. I also believe in assuring each and every student can strive and grow through various opportunities. The various opportunities for each student to succeed regardless of economic backgrounds, disability, and other groups, associations, to ensure each and every student can strive to move forward and be strong and reach their potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunnigan. And same question again, Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you. To start my remarks, I'd like to first thank the moderators for your time and appreciate that, coming in, spending time asking our questions today. And I'd like to thank the current Board of Education members and Dr. Wiles for inviting me here today. And finally, I'd like to thank the three other candidates up here today. I feel that it was an excellent time talking this evening, and I think all of them are well suited going forward. First thing I would like to share, I'm new in this process, although not so new in education. This is my 20th year in education. I'm currently a science teacher at Scotia Glenville Middle School, and I have 5 students in the Guilderland School District. I have 3 students at the high school and 2 students at Altamont Elementary School. In terms of key areas that I would like to support and help with the Board of Education, the first one is enhancing educational equity, ensuring that all students, regardless of their background, have access to the resources and opportunities that they need to succeed. Secondly, as a teacher, I come with the perspective of supporting teacher development, especially with some of the new programs on the horizon that I'm sure all of you are hearing about, advocating for the professional development programs that empowers teachers to deliver effective and innovative instruction in our classrooms here in Guilderland. Third, I'd like to promote technology integration, ensuring the use of technology to create engaging, personalized learning experiences that prepare students for the future, with special emphasis on digital literacy and all that goes into that. And finally, strengthening community engagement, fostering strong partnerships between schools and families and the community to support students' learning and well-being. Additionally, looking at some of the policies coming out of New York State, there's a lot going forward in this school year and beyond that I think a strong Board of Education, strong administrators, teachers, and then eventually students will experience in our schools, such as the statewide regionalization process, the governor requiring a student to be part of a Board of Education going forward, starting in July of next year. The plans that SED has for creating new pathways to measure attendance, the new SED outline for diploma requirements, which they're still sorting through, new ways in which the New York State Department of Education will protect student data and privacy, and then finally, the new reading instruction that the Board of Regents is pulling forward pre-K through 12. So thank you for your time this evening, and I look forward to your questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien, and finally, Mr. Stapleton.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board, Superintendent Wiles, and our student moderators, Sophia and Emily. Appreciate your time. I was born and raised in the Capital District, and my wife and my family, we've lived in Guilderland now for 4 years. My wife, Lindsay, is a graduate of Guilderland High School and Linwood and Farnsworth as well. And she's an active member of the PTAs at both Linwood and Farnsworth Middle School. My son is in 8th grade, obviously at the middle school, and my daughter is in 5th grade at Linwood. My background, I've spent the last 20 years in education, specifically the last 12 in higher education, where I have been a teacher educator, a department chair, and now I work in administration. As a parent and an educator and an administrator, I believe in a strong educational system that helps meet the needs of all students and families while supporting all employees. One of the questions that was asked this evening was how have we participated with board projects and things of that nature. I've attended some meetings. I watched the videos that are on YouTube. I think that's a great resource that we have as a district. But I'm an active voter, and I always participate in the budget process through answering the questionnaires. My background as an educator and as an administrator, I seek first to listen and then to develop a plan forward. And that skill set I have developed certainly over the last 20 years in education. My background is physical education. I'm a teacher trainer, teacher educator across many disciplines. Many of our graduates from our local Institute of Higher Education are employed in this district and in many of our other districts. When the vacancy was announced, I felt it was necessary to seek this opportunity to serve the district, the employees, the students, and the families. Our district has a lot to offer, and it takes a strong partnership to meet those goals and outcomes that the board and the administration set forth. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And moving on, for each of the next questions, you will have 2.5 minutes. Our timekeeper will hold up the yellow card when you have 30 seconds left and the red card when your time is up. Again, please be sure to wrap up your comments when your time is up. Question 2, we'll start with Mr. Dunnigan. Please explain for the members of the Board of Education and the community why you were interested in serving on the board at this time. What are your priorities for the district?
Thank you for the question. The reason why I chose and wanting to serve on the school board and why I wrote is because, like I said earlier, I just believe there's so much at stake in our future, and what happens in the classroom shapes the minds of students. I take myself for an example. I learned a lot here in high school and middle school, but especially in the high school, I learned a lot to be, and to be what I am today is because of where I sat in the classroom, learning about civic opportunity and serving in the public. I learned that, and I found my passion to be public service, and that's why I'm here. And I believe we got to continue that work to ensure more open doors open and not close. It's a revolving door, opportunities. And the moment in time we stop this amazing experiment I call education is the moment in time that revolving door is going to shut. We're going to hand other countries around the world opportunities to beat America in the 21st century. And it's an educator who says that. First Lady Dr. Biden says, the moment in time we stop pursuing education, the moment in time we stop moving education forward, is the moment in time other countries like China, Japan, and others start beating us in the 21st century competition. And I believe there's so much at stake, from book banning to banning DEI to a lot that's at stake. And let's not be naive to think what's happening across the country can't happen here. It can come to our back doors, and we need strong leaders, and all four of us are. We need strong leaders, including with the Board of Education, to ensure we move the process forward and not backwards. And that's why I'm participating here. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Dunnigan. And same question for Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you for the question. Why am I interested is really a twofold question. One of appreciation and gratitude for my 3 older students that are here at the high school in 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. I've seen them come through the entire school district, from kindergartners all the way to where they are now, and I'm very appreciative of the school district and the community and the teachers and the Board of Education over those years to guide and to teach my children. And then I look to my 2 younger children at Altamont Elementary School, and I want to continue that forward, especially with some of the new challenges on the horizon that I mentioned in my opening statements. So with appreciation for my students that have gone through the program and are continuing on, and hopefully will be Guilderland graduates soon, and for my first graders to have the opportunity to continue forward, that's really where my interest had came from. And again, this is a new experience for me, and I'm very excited to be part of this process. In terms of priorities, I mentioned some of the policy priorities in New York State that, as an educator, I've been reading about and learning about going forward. And I think some of these initiatives are going to be very, very heavy lifts, large initiatives that we're going to have to take on as a school district. And I find great opportunity in that, but also we need some careful guidance and careful leaders at the Board of Education level to make some sound decisions going forward. Something as simple as, not so simple as the cell phone policies that school districts are trying to craft independently to potentially having to work through a state mandate cell phone policy, I think is so important. There's so much at stake for our children outside of the walls of this building that sometimes technology brings into some difficulties that they experience. And I think going forward, there's going to be a lot of policy we have to deal with at the state level, down to the Board of Education level, down to our administrators and teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. And next we'll have Mr. Stapleton.
Thank you. I sort of answered this a little bit in my opening statement, but why the Board of Education now, what interests me? It's the opportunity to serve, and I can't express that enough. When you have a skill set that aligns in education, when you've spent over a decade training teacher educators, there's a natural evolution to where you become involved in what you choose to put your energy towards. And for me, serving in this community and allowing my expertise in education and training teachers and supporting school systems and school leaders, really, I felt like now was the right time for that. In terms of priorities, it's not about me. And it's not about what priorities that I come with. Those priorities are to serve. And one of the first things that we should do as servant leaders is to listen and to see where the needs are, whether that's listening to the administration here in the district, or whether it's the teachers, or whether it's the taxpayers and the voters. We need to listen. We need to understand where everyone is coming from. It's a dynamic environment in education now, whether it's a number of the state initiatives that are coming through, whether it's some of the issues that the district has dealt with over the last few years. It's every day is a new day, and there's different challenges every day. So if I'm the selected candidate, partnering with the board, listening, and seeing where we're headed, those are my priorities.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Briere.
So why do I want to serve on the school board? The number one reason is that I believe that I have skills that can be of use. And as my colleagues also believe that service is incredibly important. I've been in service for a great many years now. I served this country in the United States Peace Corps, gave up 2 years of my life to do that and be a teacher overseas. And I'm incredibly passionate about public education. And I have 2 children that are entering this school district. And I believe that the skills that I've honed over the last few years, especially within the political climate in New York, can be extremely beneficial. So bringing those relationships and that relationship building to the school board can be my greatest offering at this time. I also agree that listening is huge. Having an open ear, both listening to the existing school board, parents, students, having those discussions and that discourse about where people as a collective group want this school district to go. You know, moving this school district into the future depends upon those discussions and that discourse. Whether it be electrifying the bus fleet or it be forward thinking and alternative pathways after graduating from public schools. I think there are amazing initiatives happening across the country right now, especially within service organizations, that push students away from traditional learning pathways that work better for their individual needs. And these are all things that I've seen on a global scale. And so I want to give my services and my skill set to this position. If I'm lucky enough to be chosen, I will work every day. I'm a hard worker. And so that's what I bring. And as for my own priorities, I agree. I think it's more about what the district needs than what I personally want to see. So I would defer to those discussions.
Thank you. Next, we're going to start with Mr. O'Brien for this question. And the question is, what do you understand to be the primary responsibility of the Board of Education? What do you understand to be the responsibilities of an individual member of the Board of Education? Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you. So for the Board of Education overall, I think the greater board together as a group has to create that upper level policy for our school district and disseminate that down to our administrators and then eventually our teachers. And as a collective board working together, they also have to be very responsible financially for the taxpayers of our school district and understand that there are limitations in terms of resources that we have as a school district. And it's especially apparent with some of the tax rebates that have been provided to various large property owners within our school districts, such as Crossgates, and be really aware of the money aspect as well. So the financial piece tied to the educational piece. In terms of an individual board member, I think several of my colleagues have mentioned it up here, to be really good listeners. And I think that goes into play with listening to their administrators within the building, listening to their teachers and even students, and also listening to the taxpayers that provide all of this that we have here in our Guilderland schools. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. And same question for Mr. Stapleton.
Thank you. So first and foremost, the role of the board for me as a whole is oversight of the district. Yes, we must partner with the administration and with employees, but the board is the oversight mechanism. Fiscal responsibility is key to that, especially for our district. I've heard Blanca mention a number of times about the budget and making sure things are in check at board meetings and trying to, especially at the last board meeting, the balance between the tax base and the communication with the library and their tax levies and their budget as well. And so that oversight, I think, is very important. As far as an individual member of the board, I think their job is to represent the community, to represent at times perhaps differing viewpoints, so that you have that diversity, at least in viewpoints across the board. I think we need to listen, as I already mentioned, but I also think we need to be critical thinkers, and we need to consider compromise, right? And where can we compromise on certain issues and where can we not? In recent events, there's a certain legal standard that we need to follow. We're bound by those legal laws. And so you have to adhere to that. But within that boundary, how can we communicate more clearly? How can we ensure that the community that is the Guilderland School District feels valued and respected across all the work that we do?
Right. Thank you, Mr. Stapleton. And next, Ms. Briere.
So as for the responsibilities of the school board, I see the school board as sort of a liaison between taxpayers, parents, students, elected officials, and basically that overall voice. A group of individuals who come together to collectively decide how a school board, or I'm sorry, how the district will be both represented and, these different groups represented to each other. So that's really how I see the school board, as basically that liaison. As an individual, I believe that each individual person brings their own, plethora of different skills, and, different people belong on different committees, and having that discourse is very important. I think that also as an individual searching for opportunities to bring grant money or new programs into the district and bringing those to the school board, bringing those to parents, bringing those to the taxpayers, and explaining why they're maybe necessary, and having those discussions. Forward thinking for this school district will definitely mean looking for opportunities within the state and looking at what other districts are doing and being informed about the state of education and where it's headed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, nope. Mr. Dunnigan, your turn.
The responsibility on the Board of Education is, first of all, is any elected office, is to uphold your oath, the Constitution of the United States and of the state of New York. Do you understand? We're not above the law. We don't make laws. We enforce the laws that are given to us. And we also are oversight on our district. We're a governing board. We oversight administration. We make sure they run things the correct way, smoothly, as they always do. Always do. But we're the oversight, and we also are the liaison to the community, to the school district, on the community, students, most importantly the students, the staff, the administrators, and to the state. We have a big impact on state budgets, impact on state finances, and we are the voice, not just any school board in the state and in the region, serves as that voice to address the drastic changes that have to be made in education. We're the liaison to what I believe, the state that make the laws.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dunnigan. And next question, we will start with Mr. Stapleton. What aspects of the Guilderland Central School District do you value most, and what aspects would you like to see improved?
The aspects that I value the most is the quality of the education that is received within the district. But that's also an area that I'd like to see improved. I think we need to continue to look at the education that's received within the district and make sure that we're partnering with our employees to make sure that we are providing a quality educational experience both today and in the future. I also value the opportunities that the students have within the district. There are plenty of opportunities for students to become engaged and also to seek additional help. I think that as we continue to move ahead and we look at the budget, I think we need to continue to have those open discussions about what the priorities of the district are and how do we help our community continue to support our budget process and the fiscal responsibility that comes with that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stapleton. And Ms. Briere?
So what I value most is that I consistently see the Board of Education, the teachers, the taxpayers valuing our students and pushing them forward. And that to me makes a great school district, putting students' needs first. and valuing teachers as well. I think that we can't, talk about students without talking about teachers, and valuing this incredibly symbiotic relationship that students and teachers have in the classroom. That, to me, is what the school district gives. That's why my students, my kids, are going to be going to Westmere Elementary. The more I researched, the more comfortable and the greater I felt sending my kids to Westmere. So that gave me a sense of calm in my life, and that is what I think the school district gives me. So as for what I would like to see improved, I think there's always room for improvement, right? We can always strive for more. I think that right now we are having a huge focus on DEI, and I think that's a good thing, but I'd like to see that expanded even further. I'd like to see some initiatives in schools to combat bullying within the school district. I think that as we move into a very different political climate that most of us have ever seen, it's incredibly important to be cognizant of what is happening within our schools and within the student population. I'm a Jewish woman. It's not always easy going out there and saying that out loud. I want my children to be able to say that proudly and not be at risk for any attacks or, any negative feelings coming their way. So for me, that's where I want to see improvement. And I don't think that it's lacking necessarily, but I just want to see more.
Thank you, Ms. Briere. And Mr. Dunnigan?
Thank you. What I value most is the community of this district. I mean, this district is around community 100%. The community is really the drivers of this district. And everything I see from events and activities is ran by the community. So that's one thing I value the most, is just the community involvement and our education, which is, I was a product of it. I truly think it's top-notch education. I also believe some things to improve on is addressing economic challenges that this district and the other districts face across the state, and keep addressing the bullying, keep addressing, one thing I think is more of the youth at risk, who can most likely not be able to reach academic potential, whether it be lacking attendance, lacking discipline, and other things. Youth at risk programs to ensure each and every student, even those who are falling behind, can go forward and reach their potential. That's a couple things to improve on, including DEI, which I believe has now been 4 years, and there's a lot more to do, expanding it through different entities in our district to ensure that we reach every corners of our district through DEI. I'm a big supporter of DEI, big supporter. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dunnigan. And finally, Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you. The aspect that I value most of Guilderland Central Schools is the high-quality education and experience that we give to our students, and I think all of my colleagues up here have said similar thoughts. Looking at my children going through Guilderland schools, the education they have received in the classroom has just been tremendous, and the love from the teachers is just tremendous. Thursday night, I'm going to one of my favorite nights of the year at Altamont Elementary School, their open house, and just walking into those classrooms and seeing the love that those teachers have for their students in the classroom is just an experience like no other as a father. And also when I talk about experience, as my students, my children, moved into middle school and high school, they had other experiences outside of the classroom that I also thought were very valuable and something that we're providing at high qualities here, such as drama, music, and sports that sometimes gets overlooked and I know sometimes can fall into some tricky situations when we're trying to balance budgets and all of that. But I think the full-rounded education in our classrooms day in and day out, plus the experiences outside the classroom still structured by our school district, is something that I value most and would certainly want to contribute to enhancing as a member of the Board of Education. In terms of areas of improvement, I think this is something that all school districts in New York State and probably across the nation experience, but working to establish strong social emotional learning programs from PK right through grade 12 so that our students are following a path to become good citizens when they leave our school district with our diploma. And social emotional learning, I think, is going to be more and more important going forward with all the demands that we have in our political climate, but also with the technology as well, as I previously mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
All right, for question number 5, we'll start with Ms. Briere. Soon the district will begin the budget development process for the 2025 to 2026 school year. The school board is always trying to balance the often conflicting priorities of providing the very best educational opportunities for our students and the interests of our taxpayers who often want to keep taxes as low as possible and who ultimately vote on the budget in May. What is your perspective on striking this balance?
So I'm currently a treasurer for a state level campaign. I'm also the treasurer for the McCownville Fire District. Anybody who lives in McCownville or is familiar with McCownville knows that we're about to be building a new firehouse. This is something we have spent nights, weekends, days, etc., kind of going over the budget, going over where we're going to take money from. We did have a vote to increase the taxes, and it did pass. I think that the first thing we have to recognize is that an education costs money, and keeping taxes low is absolutely a priority, but that means using funds in the most fiscally responsible way while getting the most out of those dollars. I also think it means looking for alternative ways to fund programs if they are deemed necessary. So personally, I also have a background in grant research and grant writing. So I personally believe that I can bring something to the table in that way as well. Searching for grants, bringing more money into the district. But from a budgeting standpoint, I think we know it's difficult. It's just going to be difficult. You have to kind of set aside any expectation that you're going to have, and you have to have that conversation openly. Maybe programs are going to be cut. Maybe they're not. Maybe things get rolled back. And you have to also realize sometimes as a school board member, you're going to be the bad guy, right? Having that discussion with taxpayers, it sometimes is not an easy conversation. Getting comfortable with having difficult conversations is something that I believe is at the forefront of being on the school board. I've watched the videos of the meetings. I've seen how difficult it can be. And budget is always going to be one of those things that's a difficult conversation. But again, I've had the experience in my career to both hunker down and get to it, and also to have those discussions. So, thank you.
Mr. Dunnigan?
Would you mind repeating that question? I'm so sorry.
No problem. Soon the district will begin the budget development process for the 2025 to 2026 school year. The school board is always trying to balance the often conflicting priorities of providing the very best educational opportunities for our students and the interests of our taxpayers who often want to keep taxes as low as possible and who ultimately vote on the budget in May. What is your perspective on striking this balance?
Well, you do have to strike a balance because, yes, community doesn't want to see their taxes go up. With that being said, me personally, I refuse to sacrifice programs that give students opportunity to excel. I understand that we're heading towards financial challenges. I mean, just read a report on CNBC. Some are predicting not good financial times. I don't know. I'm not one of them. I can't comment if that's true or not. But there are challenges that are coming ahead. We do have to address that in the budget. I don't know if it's going to be this year or next year we're going to see challenges. But what we have to do is keep taxes low, but we cannot sacrifice the various opportunities to ensure, as the district's saying is, to ensure each and every student's future ready. We can't sacrifice that. And striking a balance, one thing I want to see in the budget season when we start drafting the budget, is one thing they used to do was community conversation meetings where they would have tables in the back of the LGI. I think one time they had tables in the LGI in the cafeterias, and they would go to table and table One would be about special education, the other one would be about athletics budget. And you would talk with, I believe I remember, because I remember going to one or twice, the administrators of those departments and district administrators were there to answer the questions of the community. And I think that's very valued and needed to come back. I think it was called community conversation meetings, and I like to see that come back to this district. That's all I have to say.
Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you. I definitely understand how challenging balancing the budget is, especially in these times with increasing taxes all around. And I think I mentioned this in my opening statement. The new process that the state is starting to roll out with the regionalization process among school districts, I think is a great advantage for us going forward, even if it's not officially something we're involved in just yet, to maybe be out in front of that process where we can pool our resources and share our resources with other neighboring districts so that our students have that high quality educational experience, but it's not necessarily always on the backs of our taxpayers. And one thing when you hear about regionalization, I think sometimes, especially in the media, people may think of this as consolidation, and it's not really a consolidation process. Would still be our Guilderland schools, our Guilderland students, but we would take advantage of what's out there in our region amongst other school districts, among our BOCES, and even business partners, regional business partners, to enhance the educational opportunities that we provide here to our students. And I don't know the specifics of the entire program as well, but maybe it could extend beyond the exact educational experience in the classroom and more into some of those experiences that I mentioned prior, such as our music program, which is phenomenal, our drama programs, all of our sports programs. Is regionalization something that we can use to enhance those programs as well? Thank you.
Mr. Stapleton.
Thank you. So I think first and foremost, we always need to consider the taxpayer. The state has a cap in place, and I believe that we should remain below that cap. I think how do we strike a balance? Well, we first need to recognize that one of our largest costs are our employees, and those rates our employees are non-negotiable, right? We're set and bound by contracts and a number of other factors. Plus, they're the ones that deliver the education to our students. So that's first. When it comes to the discretionary spending or the clubs and the sports, we all need to look and we need to evaluate. Do we need the best and the newest machine right away? How can we pool our resources, whether that's through this new regionalization or other factors? The governor is in the process of a state aid adjustment. How will that impact budget? And what will that look like? That's an ongoing process as well. So how do you strike a balance? You make sure you clearly communicate, that you listen, that you if you have to compromise, that you do so in a way that leads us towards and keeps us on that path to success for our students. Thank you.
For question number 6, we'll start with Mr. Dunnigan. A hot topic among school communities right now is a potential ban on smart devices, phones, watches, AirPods in schools. The governor of New York State actually held her first roundtable on this topic here in Guilderland. What is your position on banning smart devices in schools and why?
I'm 100% for it, and I'm very thankful. Kind of awesome to see Governor Hochul stop here first, actually. I saw that on the news. And I'm 100%, sorry. I'm 100% for it because I also think mental health. Social media has an impact. The algorithms, the reels, sometimes I get the wording wrong. I'm not good with social media. Facebook reels and Instagram reels. It's addicted. I mean, you can kids just watch those videos, and sometimes I'm on social media, I see some videos, I'm like, oh my God. Sometimes I report it because it's not healthy for even me to watch some of those, and it's definitely not healthy for our adolescents and our young minds. So I'm for banning it, banning social media to ensure we address the mental health crisis and we eliminate the horrible crisis that's among us, and that is mental health, and it is skyrocketing. And I believe the Momentine State, or I believe some school districts are going to have to make the decision, because state's going to take a while. I believe we're going to see that crisis flatline and hopefully then go way down when we ban it universally. So I am for banning social media in the classrooms.
Mr. O'Brien.
Again, thank you. And I would 100% agree. I'm for banning it. As an educator, day in and day out, I see the distraction it creates in the learning environment of our classrooms. When we develop our lesson plans, we think about every minute of instruction and designing our instruction so that every moment of the 40 minutes we have, or maybe a block of 80 minutes here at the high school, is devoted to student learning. But when we have students that are distracted by cell phones, it just starts to diminish that learning opportunity in the classroom. And going back to the social emotional piece, it's something that probably for the majority of us in the room, candidates here in the Board of Education, maybe not so much the students, but we didn't have that experience that the students have. When you're on Snapchat and when you're on these Instagram and different messaging devices, it's hard to shut that off. Even if you're looking at it in the hallway before class, you see that message, positive or negative, and you go into your next class and you're thinking about that message. You might not necessarily be thinking about the learning target of the class, and it can be so distracting. And it leads back into things that we've already mentioned before with bullying. It's just impossible to shut these things off with the technology we have today. So I would be certainly in favor of crafting something with community input to ban these smart devices in our classroom settings here in the Guilderland schools.
Thank you. Mr. Stapleton.
So I think we have to have a larger conversation. We know that the use of social media in particular is troublesome for this entire generation. In fact, there's a great book, The Anxious Generation. If you haven't read it, please do. It's a great read about what's happening. And so we need to consider, how do we limit these devices? However, we also need to be talking about, how are these devices going to continue to be used in the student's future? How do we ensure that they are ready for a 21st century and beyond, right? How do we live up to our mission? I was talking to Mr. Laster at the Farnsworth Middle School open house, 8th grade open house, and he said he's already noticed a difference at the middle school at lunch in terms of students talking to each other. That's evidence that at the middle school it's working. Then, how does it look at the high school? What are the parents' concerns about banning a smart device? What are the students' concerns? How can we help address those concerns? So to say whether I'm completely for it or against it, I'm going to take that middle of the road and I want to learn more. But I do, as an educator, see a strong correlation between eliminating the constant use of these devices. But again, if we're going to have that, we also need to enforce and hold students and families accountable for what our rules may be.
Thank you. Ms. Briere.
Yeah, I am not for a total ban. The reason being that I believe that an education is getting these students ready to move into their life. And that is just not the way that the world works anymore. I think it's dangerous to say, we did it one way, and so our students need to do it in a similar fashion. I do think that collecting devices at the start of a class period, or finding other ways around having devices in class, having a broader discussion about social media and its impacts, is something that I do want to see happen. I don't think that students should be having smart devices in class unless there is something about that class that is moving their education forward, maybe using tablets. I mean, we saw during COVID students having to have smart devices in order to get an education. And so saying I'm going to ban all smart devices, to me, is just, it's too much. It's too final. So I agree. I want to have more discourse. I want to have more studies, and I want to find workarounds so that these students know how to use the devices more responsibly. And that, I think, is a broader conversation that we need to have. But just saying a total ban, again, it's too much. The other issue that I have with it is that we're seeing an uptick in school shootings. I want my child to be able to contact me if that happens. I want my child to be safe, but I also, from social media, but I also want my child to be able to reach out to me if they need me during the day, if they are being bullied. A total ban on cell phones means, or smart devices, means they can't do that. And I just am not ready to make that final, closing the door for smart devices. I'm not ready for that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Question 7, we'll start with Mr. O'Brien. The district has spent a significant amount of time and energy on building more culturally responsive and inclusive schools. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you. So I think in the last few years, especially with the DEI work that the district has undertaken, I think Guilderland sort of leads the way regionally in culturally responsive and inclusive schools. And I see this as not just a path we've been on for a few years, but a path that will continue on into the future as we move forward. And I think this has to start, as I mentioned in some previous comments, right in PK all the way through 12th grade. It's not like a unit that fits here or there. It's just some experience that the students have to have every day to be responsible citizens of the world culturally, and to be responsive to one another in their own classrooms and beyond. And inclusive instruction and DEI is a great opportunity for not just our students, but our staff as well. Thank you.
Mr. Stapleton.
So I think the district is taking a number of necessary steps given the current climate that we have. As an educator, as a teacher educator, we embed a lot of this into how we prepare our teachers. I think we need to continue to be sure that we're having mechanisms and conversations and clear communication to allow all students, and when we say all students, we need to actually back up and mean all students. If you're a gifted student in this district, you don't have as many resources as other students do. All students means all students. I would like us as a district, as a society, to get to a point where these things are embedded and we can sit in a room and we can understand that we can disagree, but that we can treat each other respectfully and we can have those conversations, but that we also create an environment that welcomes everyone to be able to do that. And so as we continue to look at our curriculum and continue to look and see how we operate, I think we'll continue to see this work being an important part of what we do in the district. Thank you.
Ms. Briere.
So one of my jobs when I was in Peace Corps was to help Chinese students who were going to be entering classrooms as English teachers in rural areas to understand the mechanisms of the West, right, as a broad term. And I think in this district, we're seeing the district grow. We're seeing a change in the socioeconomic status of the population. We have I think it's over 35% of our students are below the poverty line. That's a huge number. And all of this goes into having discourse between students and having an understanding that different is not, neither good nor bad. It's just different. And DEI work to me is about equalizing everything from socioeconomic status to race to religion, and having discussions where all of these different groups and classes come together to understand each other more and have a better understanding as they go out into the world and be more open to experiencing the world, and with a great background in view. And to me, the travel that I've done, the experiences that I've had mean that I'm just more able to have that broad look. And I'm so thankful for it. And I hope that we can bring more of that to our students, whether it be by bringing, speakers in and having more discourse in the classroom and absolutely looking at curriculum. But as a broad stroke, just being more inclusive ourselves, having the guts to admit that we live within systems and trying to break those systems down, starting here.
Mr. Dunnigan?
Well, first of all, I want to, before I answer, I want to correct what I meant to say was I'm for banning social media in the classrooms, not access to phones. I'm sorry, I did misunderstand that question, because my friend here is right. School shootings are sadly going up, and so I'm not for banning access to phones, but social media. On cultural responsive, DEI plays a major part, especially in the evolving times that we're in. A curriculum that's more inclusive, that addresses different ethnic minority groups, religion, and gender, ensuring what we can do to ensure teachers. So, for an example, in parts of the state, I don't believe here, we have migrants who are going to schools, and I think it's so important to have training for teachers to learn other languages so they can adapt to teach those minds equally and inclusive, and ensuring we look at socioeconomics, which I have been a big advocate for, ensuring that we offer education programs that are inclusive and ensuring we have cultural responsive schools to move the system forward, not backwards. Thank you.
Thank you. For question 8, Mr. O'Brien. Mr. O'Brien.
I think I started on.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay,
thank
got it. For question 8, we'll start with Mr. Stapleton. In May, the district is contemplating including a referendum on the ballot for a capital construction project to begin to make our school facilities more future-ready. What are your initial thoughts about the need for such a project? Are you supportive of the idea to consider asking our community to fund this work?
Anytime you undertake a major capital construction project, you have to be concerned with the fiscal responsibility of the district. What are our reserve funds like? How does that impact the decision? How much of a tax increase on top of the operating budget might or might not occur? We have to ensure that our buildings meet the quality education that the district has. So my initial thoughts are, I have more questions. What's in that capital project? What exactly are we going to be funding? Why is it important if it's going to go out to bond? Why is bond the best way to do it? We know that our taxpayers, every taxpayer is strapped. Rising costs are also going to impact that budget. Does it make sense to do this project now? We want to ensure, as a Board of Education, it's our job to ensure that the quality is maintained in the district, but we have a fiscal responsibility to ensure that those things continue. We also have to be concerned with if we delay, how long do we delay, why would we delay, and have open conversations with the community and the stakeholders, whether that's our students or our families or our employees, that we make the process as transparent as we can.
Thank you. Ms. Briere.
So, as a general rule, I am for bringing schools into the future, but I agree that I would need more information. Just a blanket yes, no, it depends, right? It depends on what the actual improvements are, how much it costs, can we budget for it, how much are taxes going to go up. These things are definitely issues that we would have to discuss at greater length. Can we do parts of projects? Is this all-encompassing, all at once? Do we get discounts based on, whether or not we complete all projects at once? Having those discussions, definitely is paramount in my opinion. As someone who has done budgets before for large-scale construction projects, it's not an easy answer. But I am generally for bringing schools into today and the future, and future ready, yes, I do think that that's incredibly important. I think that we are moving forward as a society from a tech perspective, and our students need to be prepared for that when they enter the world. So being in a building that helps foster that growth and that education and readies them for a more tech advanced world is definitely something that I am pro for. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Dunnigan.
Yes, I'm for it. One of the major reasons why I'm for it is I'm a college student, and one of the things that I have to do a lot, I don't necessarily agree with it all the time because every time I write on a piece of paper, I memorize it. For example, I don't need to look at this tonight because I memorize what I'm saying. But the point is, technology is becoming advanced. Classroom homeworks like mine in college are becoming online, and we have to do projects that advance our technology because times are changing and the schools have to adapt to those times that are changing. I mean, everything is becoming technology, our infrastructure. I also believe greener. I mean, the climate's changing ever so much lately, and we have to address that. So the project is really going to be focused, and should be focused, on ensuring future-ready process because, again, I don't know what the future holds, but I believe it's going to be a lot of great stuff coming, and we've got to be ready for it, and I know we will. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you. I really tend to agree with Ms. Breer and Mr. Stapleton. The project there'd be a lot more questions that I'd have to hear before I'd be able to answer now. So it really depends. But one thing I think is important to balance with our taxpayers and to continue with our high-quality education that we provide here is potentially providing options of different levels of the project going forward. It might be something you would do at home. You would start with, option number one, which would be everything you'd want to do in the renovation project, and then offer option number two to the community with a cutback in cost, but obviously a cutback in the building project. And then option number three, which will keep us moving forward with some of the essential things that we need to do in our classrooms. It'll help with some of the deferred maintenance that if we put off would cost more in the long run. But option number three would have some sort of opportunity for taxpayers to not just vote it down, but to have some sort of compromise in the process. So three options that we could share with taxpayers. A number one option with everything we would possibly want to continue going forward. Option two, cut down, and then option three, just to continue moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes all of our prepared questions. I would like to thank you for your participation in this evening's event, and I will now turn the meeting back to Ms. Gonzalez-Parker.
Well, thank you to our students who are both juniors. We appreciate your work this evening, and thank you so much to all of our candidates. You are all excellent candidates, and thank you so much for coming out. I feel like you all answered the questions very well, so thank you. Do we need an official motion to adjourn, Marie? Okay, so can I please get a motion to adjourn? Katie, second Tara. All in favor? Passes 6-0. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good job.
Give it a couple minutes.